Once I read a thread about weird things foreigners say about Ukraine. My personal favorite, if I can say so, would be caring American parents who ask their daughter whether they should mail her toilet paper to Kiev, where she lived then. A long dramatic pause here for this to sink in. The speaker then stated that Kiev is more technologically advanced than New York in many ways. Well, I haven't been to the US yet, but I came back from my trip to Kiev this week, and it's wonderful beyond understanding. My name is Michelle Bonder. Welcome to the podcast Ukraine in a Nutshell. This episode is dedicated to debunking the myth about technologically retarded Ukraine. It is not, and here's why. First of all, if Ukraine was so archaic, I couldn't simply create this podcast and release it in a few clicks. We have excellent 4G connection throughout the country, and this March Ukraine got access to high-speed Starlink internet, though this service wasn't planned to be activated here until 2023. How did it happen? Let me tell you a story that unfolded before my own eyes in real time and left me with my mouth opened because of how unbelievable it is. Picture this, it's the 26th of February, the third day of the full-scale Russian invasion. Everyone in Ukraine is freaking out and nobody knows what will happen in an hour, let alone tomorrow. Meanwhile, Mikhailo Fedorov, Minister of Digital Transformation, yes, we have such a ministry, tweets Elon Musk, because all affairs of governmental importance are solved on Twitter these days. Here's the quote. Elon Musk, while you try to colonize Mars, Russia tries to occupy Ukraine. While the rockets successfully land from space, Russian rockets attack Ukrainian civil people. We ask you to provide Ukraine with Starlink stations and to address sane Russians to stand. A few hours later, Elon replied, Starlink service is now active in Ukraine, more terminals en route. Yeah, I learned French in school. Back then, like all Ukrainians, I was reading the news 24/7, so I was pleasantly shocked when I found out that it was so simple. The story doesn't end here. In March, several batches of satellite terminals arrived in Ukraine. They are distributed among Ukrainian railroad management, the military, territorial communities, etc., and are also used for the needs of critical infrastructure, medicine, finance, and energy. So this kind of internet isn't available for mere mortals yet, but it's making wonders in military communication and wherever else it's needed the most. See, even in the middle of the war, Ukraine is becoming more modern. What about peaceful times? I mentioned the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Let me tell you what they do. They specialize in digitalization of government services, yeah, how surprising, teaching people digital skills and developing the IT sector of the economy. I dare say the magnum opus of this ministry is the app called Dia, or Action. In 2019, the President and the Prime Minister announced a campaign of the state in the smartphone. This campaign's goal was to transfer 100% of all public services for citizens and businesses online until 2024. So, no queues in governmental institutions, no paper madness with tons of documents. The state is literally in your smartphone. This program is in development, of course, but for now, ID cards, taxpayer cards, COVID vaccination certificates, and driving licenses are all available as documents on any Ukrainian's phone. That's super convenient. You don't have to carry all your documents with you. As you might know, under martial law, citizens must have their passports with them, which can be easily forgotten and left at home by a person like me. But you'll never forget your phone, right? It's not the only advantage of the DIA app. By the way, it stands for Держава и я, the state and I. All genius things are so simple. You can pay your taxes in the app or on the respective government sites, receive unemployment benefits or assistance for internally displaced persons, leave an application for damaged property, or donate to the army. See, the last three services became available because of war, and this shows how Ukraine cares about its citizens, even in these trying times, and develops all possible ways to help. This is so heartwarming. Also, there's even some entertainment in Dia. Right in the app, you can watch TV or listen to the radio, and a few months ago there was a game where you could destroy Russian tanks with a drone. It was made just for fun so that Ukrainians could relax a little bit and not go crazy because of the news. And there are polls on Diet too. The questions vary from how should the new postage stamp look like to what will be put on the motherland statue in Kiev instead of the Soviet coat of arms after the victory. I love democracy. Speaking of, this is not the only way to express your opinion and be heard by the government. You can leave a petition on the president's site, and if it collects 25,000 votes, he must answer and take action. The voting process is really simple. You just have to sign in through a bank or DA account and press a button. Basically, most activities in Ukraine can be done in one click. Food delivery isn't something you'd be surprised by in 2022, but we have an exceptionally excellent mail system. I was told that you couldn't simply order something and expect it to arrive at a certain time in Europe. For example, my friend who moved to Poland tried to order something on the internet, and in order to get her order, sorry, not sorry for the pun, she had to wait for the delivery guy all day at home, which was very inconvenient to say the least. It was wild to hear because here in Ukraine, when we order courier delivery, we can schedule the hour. Also, we have various post offices literally on every turn. You can show up there anytime you want and grab your package. Moreover, there are mobile apps where you can track your delivery in real time. I'm not trying to say that Poland is worse and Ukraine is better. No, a comparison like this is common for the terrorist state, famous for its notorious propaganda, but not for Ukrainian cinnamon rolls. My message is that Ukraine belongs to European space, specifically in modernity. And in such a situation, it's okay that some aspects work better in Ukraine than elsewhere. Europe can learn something from us too, which is a true win-win strategy. By the way, the latest news says that Estonia will develop the DIA analog for itself, based on the information provided by the Ukrainian Minister of Digital Transformation. It's so cool. Okay, but what about the education sphere? Oh, I'm an expert in this because I've been in the middle of the entrance campaign in the past few months and most of the process was online. My final exams were on the computer. I applied to the university on the internet. The only time I had to touch pen and paper was when I made it to the university and signed the contract, though I believe it will go online too by the time I graduate. Enough of the government institutions, let's talk about something mundane. When I would scroll through my Instagram feed, a disgusting sign would eventually show up saying, Instagram music isn't available in your region. It was so annoying. Also, Spotify became available in Ukraine 2 years ago, and I've fallen in love with it ever since, but it only lets you play the music. Whenever I tried to tap a podcast link, it wouldn't let me listen, just like with Instagram music. However, this summer it took a letter from Mikhail Fedorov, you remember him, right? To some meta bosses and maybe a little divine intervention for Instagram music, Reels, and Spotify podcasts to become available in Ukraine, all in 1 week. I'll never shut up about how amazing it is to see my country develop step by step, even despite such horrible events. I left the most interesting part of this episode for the end. I think you've heard something of the Ukrainian diaspora, the people of Ukrainian descent living in other countries. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, many Ukrainians were forced to seek a better life outside their motherland because of economic problems or political persecution. That's why we have a saying in Ukraine, «Нашого цвіту по всьому світу». Literally, our blossom is everywhere around the world. Many of the immigrants of their descendants became prominent scientists, cultural figures, or great people in any other way. I think you remember from previous episodes that 4 out of 20 Ukrainian astronauts were born in the USA or Canada. The diaspora and their achievements are worth a separate episode. I think I've been saying this quite often lately, haven't I? But today I'd like to tell you about 2 Ukrainians who greatly contributed to IT. You've heard of Steve Jobs, now get ready for Steve Wozniak. You've probably heard of him too, I just need everything I say to sound like a meme. He was Jobs' partner and co-founder of Apple. There's dispute over his ancestry. His father's parents are either from Przemysl, now in Poland, or Bukovina, a region in Ukraine. But Wozniak himself expressed his thoughts on Ukraine, Ukrainians, and his roots. Here's the quote: I sort of wish that I were Ukrainian or nearby. Those people seem the most like Americans, like myself, out of all Europeans. Many people ask me, Steve, are you Polish? Because my surname is Wozniak. I answer, no, I'm Ukrainian. When he visited Ukraine in 2017, he said, I always knew that my surname is Ukrainian. All my life I wanted to come to Ukraine. I've been here only for a day, but I managed to love the people I met. In my opinion, there is a lot of passion in Ukraine to do something new and big. I feel no resemblance to Russia, where everything is like in the old days. I will be the ambassador for Ukraine as long as I live. Incredible. I just have nothing to add here. Another example of Ukrainian technological achievements is the typing assistant app that saved me so many times when I prepared this podcast. The app that many of you use or heard of in those YouTube ads. Have you guessed it already? It's Grammarly, my beloved. It was developed in 2009 by three Ukrainians, Alexei Shevchenko, Max Litvin, and Dmitro Lider. In 2019, the program's worth was estimated at $1 billion. The corporation has offices only in San Francisco, New York City, Vancouver, and Kyiv. Something to be proud of, isn't it? Besides, whenever I type something about the 2022 invasion, Grammarly underlines such sentences and kindly asks to help Ukraine, listing the sites where you can donate. That's so sweet that they're raising awareness. I just love them. It was just a small part of examples of how modern Ukraine and its children are. So you definitely don't have to worry if we have toilet paper when Ukrainians literally invent computers. Did I forget to mention that the first computer in Europe was made in Ukraine in 1951? Well, now you know. Don't put any labels on Ukraine or basically anything until you find out what it's really like there. Currently, Ukraine isn't number one in IT, infrastructure, or general modernity, but we're improving every day, unlike our notorious eastern neighbors who'd rather stay in the Soviet nostalgia. But Ukraine has a future and potential, like Steve Wozniak said, so our path is forward, not backwards. See you guys in the next episode, and you know what? You, yes, you can be featured there. On the site anchor.fm where I post this podcast, you can record a voice message and send it to the creator, also known as me. Tell me about your impressions or thoughts about this episode, or maybe you have something to add. How's it going in your country? Maybe you have your own Zia? I'd be more than happy to hear any feedback. See you next Monday. Glory to Ukraine!